Some time ago, Eagle Dynamics updated the Stennis aircraft carrier in DCS by enhancing it with supercarrier features, and the funny thing is that nobody seems to have noticed. For the longest time, Blue 4 only had the Stennis. It was the only aircraft carrier. And after supercarrier was introduced, other American aircraft carriers were in the game, and the Stennis was still the default, included in missions where maximum compatibility was necessary. This is before the introduction of the heat blur Forrestal. Now, if you're new to DCS, you may not be aware that unless you have the DCS Supercarrier paid DLC, you can't land on other aircraft carriers. There are some that are designated as supercarrier only. For example, the Abraham Lincoln is part of the supercarrier module, so if you try to land on it, the wires won't allow you to trap without the supercarrier DLC. You'll just balter every time, even if you fly the approach perfectly.
Bolter, bolter, let's go for another one.
For a long time, this motivated mission creators, especially if they were targeted towards multiplayer, to have two aircraft carrier groups to maximize compatibility. That way, virtual pilots with and without supercarrier DLC could enjoy carrier ops in the same mission. You can see an example of that on servers like Hoggett Training, where they have two carrier groups. All that made sense at the time, but there was a problem. You see, whenever I'm flying with friends or even random people in a multiplayer server, there's always the "do you have supercarrier?" question. It has to be asked after anyone proposes doing carrier ops. People with supercarrier obviously want to take advantage of the extra immersion of things like deck crew that people without cannot see in the game. So I think they feel a little put off being forced to operate from the Forrestal, which lacks these features, and as far as I know, it will never have them. As I said at the start of this video, Eagle Dynamics updated the Stennis so that it's functionally equivalent to any of the supercarrier ships. The physical model was corrected for scale, and now the flight deck looks identical to any of the others included the supercarrier DLC umbrella, like the George Washington or the Abraham Lincoln. As you can see in this side-by-side comparison, they're pretty much the same. There's some differences in the towers, but the flight deck is identical. I went through all that background to help understand why I'm making this request for mission creators, especially for multiplayer missions. Please start using the Stennis again. Why? Because unlike other modern nuclear carriers in the game, players without the supercarrier DLC can still use it. The wires will trap, and the catapults will still launch your carrier-compatible aircraft. This allows both types of users, those with and without supercarrier, to share a common launch and recovery platform. Users with the supercarrier DLC will be able to enjoy the enhancements, while those without can still join in on the fun. In my mind, everyone wins in this scenario. It also makes the so-called carrier parties a lot more fun. Lots of people on a busy flight deck is pretty thrilling and immersive. Now, there are situations where maybe you'd want to use a specific carrier other than the Stennis. For example, if you're trying to recreate some historical event and want to be as accurate as possible, it makes total sense to use the resources available in the game to do that. Also, the Forrestal is a pretty attractive and well done module, so the physical model is very beautiful, and putting it in the mission to be enjoyed for aesthetic reasons can make sense as well. All I'm suggesting is that in servers like Hoggett Training, why not just use the Stennis as a supercarrier slot, even if the Forrestal is kept in? Now that I've discovered that the Stennis is the one carrier that has it all, whenever I make missions with multiplayer in mind, I'm going to use the Stennis so that we can all work together from the same carrier. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, I'm Jigsaw. Thanks for watching, and hope I see you up there.
Just a bit long for the 4-wire.